All right, this is Patreon war story for June 2019. All right, hey patrons, welcome back to Tactical Rifleman and our Patreon page, Storytime with Carl. I was going through some of my old memorabilia pictures. I've got piles of photos, and so remember back the days before we had digital cameras, everybody took a lot of pictures, and so I've got tons of military photos, but I'm going through it and I actually found a picture of my interpreter, and I got his eyes blocked out and he's standing to the side and he's holding this shiny badge in his hand. And I thought about it and kind of brought a smile back to my face, and I figured I'd share the story with you. So the background, 2004 in Iraq, the city of Fallujah. I don't know if you all remember, but it was April time frame. The Blackwater convoy gets ambushed. That's where they actually hung the American contractors from the bridge. First Battle of Fallujah happens. Marines pound the hell out of the city, big fight, and then all of a sudden, that's when the Fallujah Brigade shows up. This Iraqi unit cordons off Fallujah. They said, we will not let any bad guys out of the city. You don't have to kill any more people in Fallujah. The Marines pulled back and Rumsfeld, and everybody's like, what just happened? Okay, fine. The Marines were not allowed to go into the city. Basically, the Fallujah Brigade were supposed to be keeping the bad guys in the city, but it more turned into keeping the Marines out of the city. So at that same time frame, my unit was gearing up to go to Iraq. And I want to be where the fighting is and everything. So again, I stood up in the middle of the meeting where they were signing things, and I put my hand up and I said, look, I want the city of Fallujah for my A-team. And I've mentioned this in other stories, but what it came down to was my A-team was supposed to be down south with the rest of my company. There was another company, Charlie Company, 1st to the 5th, was in Anbar province, and they were going to give a regular Whiteside A-team Fallujah. And I said, no, my team, because Marines aren't allowed in the city right now, my team is set up because we're a SIF sniper team. We have all the TSC equipment, tactical surveillance equipment, so we could sit outside the city and we could watch inside this. We got microwave antennas, all kinds of crazy stuff. And my team would be best for the job. The reality is I wanted to go to Fallujah because I thought the fighting was going to kick back off any day, and then my snipers, we could get our kill on. Killing people is fun. Why would I not want that job? Long story short was they actually gave my A-team the job. They did. So we show up in Fallujah, 2004, July, August time frame, and it was a very, very busy 4-month deployment for us. A battle in the Joff, we went down for that and everything. I've got lots of great stories from Fallujah. I've shared some of them with you, and I will continue to share more. But this particular story I want to share with you deals with what do you do when you're not allowed to kill people? There's lots of people that need killing in the world. What do you do when you're not allowed to kill them? And it deals with psychological operations, PSYOPs. So, Carl, what are you talking about? I appreciate you asking. So again, I said the Marines were not allowed to go into the city, all right? The only kinetic strikes being done in Fallujah was Delta. They were not, you don't call Delta Force outside the U.S. That's like the CIA. You don't call them CIA overseas. You call them OGA, other government agency. So the OGA was running sources inside Fallujah, but they got almost all their sources killed during the first battle. The A-team that we replaced, they were running a few sources. We were developing our own sources and training Swanee Special Forces guys from the old regime, training them to be sources for us in the city. You know, we would like buy them, after we vetted a few of them, we bought one of them a taxi, and he would drive through the city and he'd come back and report intel for us. We bought another guy like a couple thousand cartons of cigarettes, and he went into Fallujah and just sat on the street corner and sold cigarettes, and he'd report back to us when he saw stuff. That's running sources. But as far as actually doing strikes in the city, the only people that were doing anything was Delta. Again, you can't call them Delta. So I think they were Task Force 222 or something. Well, they change their task force numbers every so often, blah, blah, blah. But they were actually dropping bombs in Fallujah. Whenever they could get positive ID of where a bad guy was, they would pickle a satellite guided bomb in there. Great stuff. I'm all about it. We weren't allowed to do that. We didn't have the intel to do that there. The varsity team, I'm all about them doing it. So us, again, we're running sources, we're doing psyops, and basically anything outside the box, thinking outside the box. That's what Green Berets do. It's what we excel at. Now, one of the things that Delta was doing was they were dropping leaflets, because Al Zarqawi, I don't know if y'all remember him, he was the guy that started Al-Qaeda in Iraq. He's the guy that pissed off bin Laden. Bin Laden actually sent him a letter saying, dude, you need to quit cutting heads off, because you're going to bring the scunion of the whole world down on top of Al-Qaeda. And Al Zarqawi told him to piss off. He's bringing the fight to the Americans, and you're just hiding in a cave. So Zarqawi, the boy was tough nuts. He really was. Delta ended up killing him with an airstrike later on. But that was after the Second Battle of Fallujah. So anyway, during the time that I was there, Zarqawi was still inside this city. One of the things that they would drop, that Delta would drop besides just paper leaflets, was, what are people in Iraq going to do that don't know how to read and write? Right? A leaflet's nothing more than a picture. So you use cartoons to try to get your message across. What do people really need over there? These son of a guns smoke all the time. So Delta was dropping matches, books of matches. Now the cool part was they had Zarqawi's picture on the front and 3 of his photos on the back. And these are basically little propaganda leaflets that people would pick up and keep with them and read them, you know, how big the reward was for any information that they would turn over about Zarqawi. This is awesome, by the way. This is awesome. I actually brought some of them home with me, lighting cigars and stuff. You know, you got to have cigars and cognac after a good kill. All right, so that was great stuff. Now, the Marines were also dropping leaflets from airplanes a little bit, not so much, but also the Marines were at these same checkpoints with the Fallujah Brigade, set back a little bit further from them. And whenever vehicles would go into the city, sometimes the Marines would dump leaflets into the back of the vehicles, or, well, the Marines were doing presence patrols, driving around all around Karma and all these other cities. They would throw leaflets out in town. That was how the Marines were getting their messages out. So who designs these leaflets? Who does this? So I was meeting the Marines. My A-team new in town there. I met this Army PSYOPs officer, young captain, and he hated his job, but he was attached to the Marines for this psychological warfare thing. The Marines had a PSYOPs colonel. Now, PSYOPs, you have white PSYOPs and black PSYOPs. PSYOPs, that's psychological operations, is supposed to be to destroy the morale of the enemy so that you can manipulate them and win, right? But that's not what they were doing. They had this thing that you weren't allowed to do black PSYOPs. In other words, you weren't allowed to lie. Isn't that the whole point of PSYOPs, is lying? right? Manipulating the way they think about things. So the captain was very frustrated. He was not allowed to lie with any of his leaflets. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he said, Master Sergeant, basically I'm being told to print leaflets that we can hand out to the Marines to teach them to use foot powder and take good care of their feet. And print leaflets to hand out to the locals to let them know that the Americans are really good people and that we're here to take care of them. Complete waste of time. Now, the Marine colonel, he was a great guy. He wanted to do the right thing, but same thing, his hands are tied with regulations. He's not allowed to lie. That was a current plan by the Bush administration. Americans don't lie. And it just blew me away. But this guy was designing cartoons, right? Because, you know, he's like, a lot of these people can't read and write. Okay, they can't read and write. So he would design this cartoon and he'd show it to me. He's like, Carl, what do you think about this one? I think your artist has been smoking a little bit too much hash. I couldn't make heads or tail of this cartoon. Like, what is this cartoon trying to tell me, sir? He said, well, it's trying to tell them this, and this. I was like, I don't get anything. I didn't get any of that out of your cartoon. You need to have writing on your cartoon. So anyways, they weren't getting a lot done. They really weren't. They were not getting a lot done at all. Meanwhile, the Mujahideen, those are your freedom fighters in the northern part of the city, your actual Fallujahs. They consider themselves freedom fighters for fighting against the Americans. Now you got to remember, these people in Fallujah, the Mujahideen in Fallujah, they weren't just fighting the Americans. They would fight Saddam also before we even got there. Saddam never conquered Fallujah. He built military bases all around Fallujah, and it was kind of controlled neglect. So long as they didn't come out of this city, his troops wouldn't go into this city. Fast forward, now they're just fighting the Americans. Nobody in Iraq liked Fallujah. Matter of fact, if you had somebody down south in like Najaf or Basra, somewhere like that, and the guy was shady, the criminal element, they would say, well, that guy's from Fallujah. It didn't matter whether he was or not. It was just kind of like a slang term, that guy's from Fallujah. And I'm giving you that little bit of information to kind of give you a idea of the people there. Now, northern 2/3 of Fallujah was ran by the Mujahideen, and then you had all your foreign fighters. They were down in like the bottom of the city, the part of the city that was kind of abandoned and was being built up before the Americans showed up. So Iraq was Disney World if you wanted to kill Americans. Instead of coming to do attacks in the U.S., all these guys that wanted to get their jihad on, they would fly from Yemen, from Pakistan, from Beirut, from Palestine. They would all fly to either Saudi or Turkey or Jordan, and they would Syria. They would sneak through the desert, and they would get smuggled through Anbar province into Fallujah, and then in Fallujah they would link up with the other foreign fighters, and they would be trained to many of them were trained to drive car bombs down and blow them up in Baghdad near the green zone, or they'd be trained to do other attacks and stuff. So Fallujah was their last stop before they actually got to go on to paradise and kill themselves. So Fallujah, all these foreign fighters down in the southern part of the city, they're all chomping at the bit to kill Americans. Funny stuff. But the Mujahideen and the foreign fighters, they were doing psyops also, except they have no problem lying. So they're telling all the locals, and unfortunately a lot of the population of the rest of the planet, Africa, Middle East, all these other countries, they are very uneducated, but their minds are sponges because they're not always bombarded by the internet and everything showing them what real life is. So they were the foreign fighters were telling all the locals, look, all the Americans do is rape, pillage, and burn. All they want to do is come in here, kill all the Iraqis. We're here to protect you. A good example of it was they were telling them that Americans were parachuting in monkeys that had been crossbred with sheep, and these things would sneak up to you in the dark and they'd bite you, and they had a poison that would like kill you in your sleep. When I heard them talking about this, I was like, you're making that up. Surely no adult person would believe that the Americans are genetically engineering monkeys and sheep together and somehow have it biting with poison. But they're like, serious as a heart attack. Bad guys were actually printing leaflets with this and handing them out to people. I told that PSYOPs colonel from the Marine Corps, I was like, dude, that's the combat schmonkey. You've so got to make t-shirts with a combat schmonkey on it. Drop leaflets on that. Dude, use that to your advantage. Twist that shit around. The combat schmonkey. Is that not awesome? He's like, Carl, I can't do that. Can't do that. Fine, whatever, dude. We're out on the shooting range. My guys had to go to the range, and we were only allowed to shoot so much on Camp Fallujah. That's a little camp outside of the city of Fallujah, where all the Marines were. My guy's little safe house was right in the middle of Camp Fallujah, so I could sleep well at night because I had 2,000 Marines wrapped around me. But the place we like to go shoot for long range, remember we're a sniper team, was 1-4 Marines, 4-1, 1-4 Marines, Colonel Buell. They were north of Camp Fallujah. They had a nice place where I could get long range shooting. Great, great place. Colonel Buell was an awesome guy. We've really much enjoyed working with him. 1-4? I think it was 1-4 Marines. Don't quote me on that. We're up on the shooting range, and I look down, and there's leaflets everywhere that weren't there the day before. Picking these up, I'm looking at them. Apparently, when that MC-130 had come by dropping Delta's leaflets, they had missed the city, and they'd landed 5-10 miles east out on Camp Fallujah and just north of the city. Okay, shit happens. So it's like, talking to Marines about it, because some of them were out there, and they're like, yeah, that's why we just have our Marines throw, when they drive through a town, they throw leaflets up in there. I was like, that's kind of cool. So I'm talking to the Marines, and they were trying to catch a guy up in Karma. And the guy had fled the city, went to wherever, but they had heard that this guy was back in town. So I'm like, okay, cool. Why don't you put his picture on leaflets, offer a big reward. And when the Marines are like, you got to remember, this was an infantry battalion. Well, we don't have, I'm like, you don't have to have anything. I'll do it for you. So I went and got back with this captain, PSYOPs guy. This is the picture I want. And print up some leaflets, blah, blah, blah. We did that. We only made a few hundred of them. The captain was glad to do it. And we went and gave them to the Marines so they could spread them out all over Karma. Just more litter on the ground, no big deal. And the leaflets, the goal of it was a reward. And it didn't work. Nobody wanted to turn anything in. So, okay, well, let's try this another way. So Delta had just dropped another bomb in Fallujah to kill a bad guy. And we actually got a nice little picture of the bad guy. It was in the report that went out to everybody. And I was like, now remember, no Iraqis gave this guy up. It was signal targeting, listening to cell phones and tracking cell phones and everything. But the bad guys didn't know that. So to help hide that, and to help out the Marines, let's print some more leaflets. And we actually put this high value target's picture on it, the one that Delta had just killed. Now remember, Delta had killed this guy signal targeting, locking up cell phones, stuff like that. So we put on the leaflet, Hey, thanks to the good people of Fallujah, because of intel that you gave us, we were able to capture or kill, we were able to kill this known terrorist enemy of Iraq, but we still need your help. There's another villain in the area of Karma. Here is his picture. If you see this guy, be a good Iraqi, help out your fellow patrons, and turn him in. Here's a phone number. We spread these leaflets out and everything, and the captain up at PSYOPs and the colonel up at PSYOPs, they were like, Carl, you can't do that. You can't do that because that's lying. I'm like, yeah, so what? I don't care. I'm helping conceal how Delta's targeting, and I'm helping the Marines look for this guy. So there's no downside here. The captain's like, Carl, I love it. I just can't print these for you. What can I do to help? I'm like, I need 2 reams of paper, and I need these 4 printer cartridges. I'll print them myself. Dude, he gave me printer cartridges, reams of paper. The captain was all about supporting us. Isn't that sad, by the way, that an A-team can do things like this, but an actual, now remember, PSYOPs is part of USASOC, U.S. Army Special Operations Command, all right, falls under USASOC, which falls under SOCOM. But here they are, this poor captain's got his hands tied. So anyways, fast forward, and me and my intel warrant, who was acting as our company, as our detachment commander at the time, I didn't have a captain on my A-team. It was me and my warrant officer, Chief Whistler. We would always go to the Marines and get intel updates and everything. And Chief was a guy who was running the sources inside the city. He actually had one source that worked as a litter bearer for the Mujahideen. He wasn't a fighter, but his job was to carry a litter. So he had been in the first battle of Fallujah and everything. We're still running this guy as a source, paying him money and everything. I won't say what his name is because the poor bastard might still be alive over there. All right. I know some of the viewers here may be sympathetic to their cause. I don't care. So we walk into the Tactical Information Center once, and they're watching a Predator feed. It actually wasn't a Predator. I think it was the Marines had smaller ones called Ravens and all kinds of other stuff. But anyways, we're watching a UAV footage. We call it ISR. Watching it, and I'm like, what are they doing? And their sources were telling them that where Delta had dropped another bomb, the guy that they had killed was not Mujahideen. He was a foreign fighter, and the foreign fighters are so mad at the Mujahideens, right? The Mujahideen are so mad at the foreign fighters, they were not letting the foreign fighters bury their guys in the Fallujah cemetery anymore. So we were watching on the big screen a local soccer field, and the foreign fighters were burying the guy in the corner of the soccer field. And there were 3 graves there now. I was like, that's kind of cool. So it became a thing to where every time Delta did an attack or the Marines did an attack anywhere around the edges of the city, you'd see funeral processions going on. But if you saw them burying bodies at this soccer field, it lets you know, hey, we killed 3 foreign fighters last night. The next 2 weeks later, it's like, hey, they're having another funeral. We just killed 2 more foreign fighters. It was kind of cool. It's kind of like a scorecard that you could see from the air. We dug it. It was awesome, and it got me and my warrant thinking, like, if we're not allowed to go in there and kill them, but they're mad at each other, right? The foreign fighters and the Mujahideen are not getting along. They're bumping heads. If I can't kill them, how do I get them to kill themselves, kill each other? I got to piss them off. I got to make them more mad at each other. All right, so what we did was we actually filmed we took a picture of my interpreter. He's an Iraqi Christian from the States, so we brought over there to be an interpreter. John, I think was his name. Been a long time. Anyways, John, he's dressed up in his Arab garb. He's got his keffiyeh on his head and everything. We got a black eye covering, black strip covering his eye so you can't see him. And John is turned to the side. He's actually turned this way. And in his hand, he's pointing. And in his hand, he's got this badge. It's a shiny gloss white badge. It's got a red gloss ring around the outside with like a 4 bands that come to the center, red, and then it's got lines of bright gold going out. And what we did was we printed up a leaflet saying, "Good people of Fallujah, thank you for your help. Your information that you gave us led to the death of such and such." We listed another guy that Delta had just bombed. "However, we still need your help. If you are approached by any one of our contacts showing this badge," and that's where the picture was, "give them any information that you have about the location of the foreign fighters in the city. Let's work together and help Iraq to get rid of these foreign fighters." We printed up these leaflets, and we had the Marines that were working at the Fallujah Brigade, working near the Fallujah Brigade around the outside of the city. Whenever pickup trucks would go through the checkpoints, these checkpoints were a couple hundred meters outside the actual city. So once they got through the checkpoints, they had their vehicles searched and everything. These trucks would speed off and go into the city. And what the Marines would do is we'd give them tons of these leaflets. They'd put them in the back of pickup trucks, and when they go in, they blow out of the back of the pickup trucks. It's a way for us to get our leaflets into the middle of Fallujah. How do you know if it's working? How do you know it's working? Well, our contact that Chief is running inside the city is like, "Dude, man, these guys are really pissed at the foreign fighters. The foreign fighters keep coming up to us just randomly, and a bunch of foreign fighters would grab one of us and pat us down looking for this badge. They're trying to find anybody that has this badge, because if they can find these spies inside the city, they're planning on shooting a video, cutting the guy's head off, all this, that, and the other." Well, they can search all they want, and they're losing their minds trying to find these guys. They can't find any of them, by the way, because our contacts inside this city don't have this badge. There's only one of these badges, and I still have it to this day. It's up in the attic buried in all my crap. What it was is it was a lid off of a big jar of fruit juice called Ranny, big red lid, and that's the bottom of the lid. I took a red and yellow dry eraser marker and made the design in the lid, and I had my interpreter hold it for the picture. That's right, the badge that they were hunting for, the badge that all the spies in the city had, was really the lid off of a fruit juice bottle. Tell me that's not thinking outside the box. So anyways, we get word back that this has really started pissing off the Mujahideen, because the foreign fighters are running around just randomly grabbing guys, searching them. "We don't trust you. We're going to search you." And they're looking for this badge. It's like, this is awesome. We need to take this to the next level. How do we do that? So we took our TACP. He's our Air Force guy attached to us, who's in charge of calling in airstrikes. We're not allowed to drop bombs. Delta's doing that. So this guy's doing nothing. So anyways, we had a ninja outfit, for the women to wear, black ninja outfit. And whenever we would ride around in our Bedouin pickup trucks, you've seen pictures of me in my man dress with my Tom Selleck mustache and everything. Well, that's how we would ride around a lot of times. For the Aryan Nation guy with the blue eyes and blonde hair, we would have them wear the ninja outfit sometimes when we were moving. So anyways, I took my TACP and I had him put on the black female Arab garb, and I gave him the badge. And he had the badge, and I've got him pointing at the badge. And I took another picture. We put it on another set of leaflets. "Good people of Fallujah, The information that you have given our contacts has led to the death of such and such foreign fighter, because Delta had just bombed another guy. SIGINT targeting, having nothing to do with our sources. Thank you for your help. However, we still need your help. If you have any information about the location of the foreign fighters and you're approached by one of our contacts showing you this badge, please give them any information you have, blah, blah, blah. Let's make Iraq great again. It was priceless. It was priceless. We start spreading out those leaflets all over the city. Now our sources inside the city are like, man, the Mujahideen are losing their fucking minds, because the foreign fighters, every time they see a female, they're going up and they're grabbing them and they're searching the females, like literally from head to toe, looking for a badge that big, the lid off of a fruit jar. Now, where could a female hide a lid of a fruit jar like that? Pretty well anywhere. She could hide it under her breast. She could hide it down south. So these foreign fighters, not only were they searching the Mujahideen guys, pissing all them off, now they're grabbing the Mujahideen's women and they're basically strip searching them. Really, really pissed a bunch of them off. And it led to these guys fighting, killing each other. Awesome, awesome. Back to our Predator drones and our ISR watching our soccer field. We actually got to fill a few more graves on our soccer field. Great, great stuff, good stuff. My job's to think outside the box. How do we take this to the next level? Well, anyways, my lieutenant colonel from up at Starfleet Command, Colonel Kelly, comes down. He's got his sergeant major with him, and he's got his lawyer with him, JAG lawyer. And you know, the lawyers are terrible, right? So anyways, we're briefing the colonel on these PSYOPs things that we've been doing, and you know, he's happy with that and all. And Chief briefs him on the sources that he's running and everything, and we brief him on what we're doing with our Swanee Special Forces guys that we're training and working with different Marines. And so anyways, I bring it up to him. I'm like, look, sir, you know, the bad guys are always going in and out of the city, and we're not allowed to attack them. I understand that. But if we're wanting to make it look like the bad guys are no longer just fighting each other, we want one team to think that the other team is actually killing them and vice versa, because if we can get them to kill each other, we'll really fill up our soccer field. That would be great. So how do you do that? Well, we need to kill some of them, but we need to frame the other team. And what I propose we do is our source can PID, positively identify, when one of the foreign fighters is leaving the city to go down to Baghdad, and because he comes out drives the same vehicle every morning, comes out of the same checkpoint. When he positively identifies him coming out, we could attack him, kill this guy, but make it look like it was done by the Mujahideen. We could dress like the Mujahideen, use Mujahideen weapons, use Mujahideen, because we've captured some explosives that the Marines had captured from them. We got those explosives. We've got all the outfits. We've got the sandals. I've got RPKs, I've got AKs, I've got everything, and then we could do more leaflets and propaganda to make the foreign fighters think that this was the Mujahideen that actually attacked them, and then the foreign fighters will in turn attack. And so anyways, I threw this out to Colonel, and Colonel's like, well, that's great, Carl, but you know, we couldn't legally do that. And of course, I'm like, he's got the lawyer sitting right next to him, so I'm screwed, right? The lawyer actually goes, well, actually, sir, yes, you can. So long as Carl does not wear the uniform of another unit, another country, so long as they're just in civilian clothes, technically, Carl can do this. Really? No shit. Nice. So Colonel Kelly said, thinking outside the box, Carl, go for it. Do this. Roger that. So we plan this thing out. How we're going to do it is my whole team dressed like Mujahideen. All right, man dresses and everything. We're going to drop them off. How do we drop them off, right? Because I'd only have like one Humvee left. How my team would move around is we would move around with the Marines. The Marines always have roving patrols out with Humvees and stuff. We'll go along with them. We'll have our 2 Humvees. And in part of their group of Marine Humvees. And when we drive by, we'll just kind of slow down a little bit. We'll have all my guys jump out of the Humvee. We'll have them move dismounted and set up an ambush. Now, set up this ambush with like mines and everything. And if they actually get into contact, the guys have guns, but the plans are not for them to actually get into a gunfight. This should just be like an IED strike, because that's how the cowards over there like to fight. They would blow up IEDs. They wouldn't actually like to get into gunfights. So after it goes off, all right, we know what happens. It goes off. The ambulance always comes out of Fallujah. When it comes out, we'll see it we'll see them pick up the bodies and everything. After they're gone, the Marines will swoop in, because the Marines always come in if there's an explosion. They always come in and check it out, see if there's any wounded Americans there. When they do that, our guys will jump into the Humvees and we'll leave. Sounds great. We can do this, right? We can do this. So I need bombs. All right, so what kind of bombs do we make? There's a homemade claymore mine. Basically, you take C4 in the back of like Maxwell House coffee cans, and you fill the front of it with like nuts and bolts and stuff. And it's called a grape shot. So the C4 in the back, you put about 2 inches of C4. When it explodes, it sprays all the nuts and bolts in front of it. And you can use gravel, nails, whatever. Sprays it out like a big cone, like buckshot, birdshot. Okay, cool. Well, we have the captured explosives, and I tell my guys, hey, make some grape shots. So they get cans and everything. And one guy, Tom Cotton and Chris Papard, they come up to me and they're like, hey, Carl, you remember when we asked our guy to go downtown and buy us a 3/4 inch drill bit, and we gave him like $100, and he came back with $100 worth of 3/4 inch drill bits. He brought us back like 100 of these drill bits. We only needed like 1. You remember that? And I said, yeah, I remember. We're gonna use all those drill bits in our in our grape shot. So we had coffee cans, 2 inches of C4 in the back, packed to the gills with 3/4 inch drill bits, nuts and bolts, all kinds of other stuff. Had a whole row of these mines made. These guys, they camouflaged them all up, tan spray paint and everything, det cord coming out of the back of them so they could be daisy chained together to be command detonated. Great, great stuff. These things were beautiful. They really were. Okay, so let's do this. Coordinate with the local Marines. We do a nice op order. That's a briefing, operations order. We have the Marines give us one of their CAT platoons. What that is a, basically it's a platoon of anti-tank missiles, tow missiles, and Mark 19s on Humvees. The lieutenant in charge of that platoon, he's read in on it, no big deal. I have my Humvee. The captain, warrant officer, Chief Whistler, he's got the other Humvee, and all of our Mujahideen, the other guys on our A team, they jump in the back of these 2 Humvees. We drive out there doing their roving patrol. Right when the sun's going down, everybody's gone, city's nice and quiet. We drive up, we kind of slow down and stop. Now you gotta remember, this CAT platoon is always moving and stopping, moving and stopping, moving and stopping, moving and stopping. So it's no big deal for them to stop. They stop, we look around with the thermal sights and everything, make sure there's nobody around, and out of the Humvees slither all these Mujahideen. man dresses, sandals, AKs. They got one guy with an RPK. They got backpacks filled with these grape shot mines and everything. They move. They take a superstitious route up through a cemetery. They get to the edge of the highway. They set up their ambush line, got all the grape shot explosives set up to kill anything that's in the kill zone. Gonna just rape the hell out of this road. Just kill it. This vehicle doesn't stand a chance. And then we wait. And we wait. Sun's starting to come up. Everybody starts coming out of Fallujah to go to work in Baghdad. And we've got our contact on the radio. Not on the radio, on the cell phone. Chief's over there, and we're only like a kilometer away. The CAP platoon's got their little perimeter set up with their Humvees. Everybody's pulling security. My guys are out there across the desert, hunkered down. Chief's got our contact on the radio, waiting for that vehicle to come by. Waiting for the vehicle to come by. Wait, I think that's him, but I'm not sure. What do you mean you're not sure? Well, I'm not sure. We have to have positive identification. We just can't randomly just kill people from Fallujah, because there are good people over there. There's good people that are going on their way to work. You can't just randomly kill people. Can't do that. We're Americans. We're not Chechenian. We don't do that. So we wait. Are you sure? No. Maybe. Either you're sure or you're not sure. I'm not sure. Okay. We hadn't thought, we had decided that if he couldn't PID the target, we would just blow them and we'll come back, we'll do it again another day. Okay. That's a waste of good explosives, but we're not going to have our guys pick them back up. That was kind of an option. We're like, at least if we blow it, somebody will think somebody got IED'd. So we did. We ended up with nobody in the kill zone. We ended up like, hey, fire it off. The guys fired off the explosion, and then they fell back. Sure enough, out of the city came the ambulance. The ambulance showed up. There were no casualties there, so the ambulance left. We loaded up in the vehicle, the Humvees. CAP platoon led us up there. CAP platoon set their cordon around where the bombs had gone off, because that's what the Marines do. Look to see if there's any American casualties. And when we made sure there was nobody else around, my guys slithered back into the Humvees. We were all disappointed, and we get back to the city. And lo and behold, the foreign fighters are being accused by and remember, we were trying to kill a foreign fighter to make them think that the Mujahideen had done it. Well, it turns out a vehicle that had just getting ready to be there was actually Mujahideen. When the explosion went off, they went and told everybody that it was the foreign fighters trying to kill them. And lo and behold, word spread like wildfire that the foreign fighters were trying to kill the Mujahideen, and then the foreign fighters making counter accusations against the Mujahideen, and lo and behold, they start fighting even more and more and more. Mission accomplished without us actually killing anybody. Would have been more fun to kill some people, but end result was we still accomplished the mission. Colonel was happy with that. The Colonel stops in again and visit. He would fly through every so often or drive in. This was a couple weeks later, and great deal. Well, the Marines were talking about how they had information about the location of a car bomb factory. Now, with a car bomb factory right there in the city of Fallujah. Now, nobody's blowing up car bombs in Fallujah. What they're doing is they build the car bombs there, and then they take one of these foreign fighters and they'd get him stoned and tape him to a steering wheel, and he'd have to drive the car bomb to the green zone in Baghdad and blow it up. Okay, that's what foreign fighters are good for, I guess. All right. Well, the Marines are like, we can't get permission to drop a bomb on this thing. I wish we could hit it on the ground, but we can't send anybody in there. Maybe I can help you. Well, Colonel Kelly just happened to be there visiting, and we're like, look, sir, here's what I want to do. I want to go park my own car bomb right next to the car bomb factory and blow up my car bomb, and then we'll just say, you know, that it must have been their car bomb maker blew himself up, no big deal. You're not going to kill anybody around there except for car bomb makers. And the colonel's like, ha ha ha, you know, you can't. I'm like, hey, sir, you know, we can watch it with ISR. We watch it with the UAV flying overhead. We can command detonate it from outside the city when we make sure there's no women and children around it. And if we lose signal, we've got a remote we've got a timer. Lift the lever, turn it, sit the lever back down. You can't even turn it off anymore. The guys in the military know what I'm talking about. We'll have that built inside the car bomb. All trace of American technology will be destroyed in the blast. We can do this. The colonel goes, well, Carl, that's wishful thinking, but you know, we couldn't legally do that. The JAG lawyer says the same thing. Well, actually, sir, if so long as Master Sergeant Erickson can ensure that it's command detonated and that there are no non-combatants in the area, legally we could do this. The colonel goes, all right, Carl, make it happen. Ta-da! Off we go, building a car bomb. So I don't know if I mentioned it before, but we would have to drive, and we didn't always ride around in our Humvees. We had a fleet of civilian vehicles. And a lot of these vehicles that we would ride around in, we had everything. We had a bongo truck. We had Bedouin pickup trucks. We had little sedans. We had big sedans. Whenever a car would get burnt, in other words, somebody would spot that it was a Westerner in it, military person in it, we would either trade it with different safe houses, other A-teams across the country, or we had a paint booth. You could take a little car, paint a white car, paint the fenders orange, put the yellow sign on top of it, and you could make a taxi. Let's make a taxi car bomb. So we reinforced the rear suspension in this taxi. We took the spare tire out because to go through the checkpoint, to go through the Fallujah Brigade checkpoint, they search all vehicles. They search them good. They're looking for bombs. They're looking for you smuggling weapons in, cameras, anything. To film things, we would have to we would hide pinhole cameras like inside the light in the corner of the vehicle. To film under a bridge once, we even drilled a hole in the top of the taxi sign and actually had a pinhole camera there so we could film underneath the bridge looking for explosives. We were sneaky, thinking outside the box. Remember, that's what we did. So what we did was under the carpet, the space that's big enough for the spare tire, we were going to basically make it as though that space wasn't there. We were going to mold a perfectly sized block of explosives. We had all this captured C4 explosive that had been captured from the bad guys. So my guys, now blocks of explosives, you stack them all up. A lot of times they don't always ignite each other. And what it does is it rains chunks of sensitized, unexploded ordnance all over the place. Now we needed all of this stuff to go off. So my A-team, they cut broomsticks into little pieces, so they had wooden dowel, and they peeled the wrapper off of all the blocks of C4, and these guys sat there and kneaded all the C4 plastic explosives and made us block solid, the correct size. It's like 80 pounds of C4. If you've ever seen one of the cars I've blown up at T1G, completely destroys the car, that's like 5 pounds of C4. These guys have got, oh shit, it had to be over 100 pounds. This block was huge. Wrap around the top to hold our secondary detonator. And the way we were going to prime it was we had wireless detonator that we could command detonate it that had like a 5-mile range of it. We were going to sit back 5 miles or 3 miles, a couple miles outside the city. Turns out this car bomb factory wasn't far from the edge of the city. We could get pretty close to it. So we were going to build this taxi, put our bomb in it. Now, how do you deliver it? I appreciate you asking. Remember, I told you Chief was running sources inside the city. One was a taxi driver. But we had other guys that would do other stuff inside the city also. So what the goal was for us to do, and these guys didn't know each other. They didn't know each other at all. We were going to have one of the guys say, we were going to tell him, look, your job is to drive this new taxi into the city, drop it off for one of our other guys just like you, another Swanee Special Forces guy. He needs a taxi. You're going to go drop the taxi off for him. You're going to park it right here at this location. He's going to come back for it. We're going to tell our other guy that actually is a taxi driver. He'll be there at the exact same time for that guy to get out and get in the taxi. Now, while he's driving into the city, we would be watching him with the Marine UAV, watching the vehicle move the whole time. If it got into any trouble at all, at the checkpoint, whatever, we could command detonate it at any given time. Right? Once he parked it right next to the wall, where on the other side of the wall were these cars that they were making into car bombs. Once he did that, once he parked it, we'd wait for them to leave so they were safe. And when with the UAV, we could make sure that there were no other people, women, children, anybody around our car bomb, which was right on the other side of the fence from their car bombs. We would command detonate it, and our car bomb would blow up through the wall, set off their car bombs, blow up the other car bombs, building would come down, and we will have just removed a car bomb factory that's been making car bombs, that's been killing Americans and Iraqis. This is a great plan. We can do this. If we lose signal to it, it's got a 6-hour timer on it. When it hits the 6-hour mark, which would have been like 2 o'clock in the morning, there'd be nobody else around. The timer in turn would set this car bomb off. That was our backup for our backup. This is great. We build it. We build this thing. It's perfect. We get the approval from Starfleet Command, the colonel and everybody, like, so long as the Marines say you can do it, you can do it. Now, we're getting into November 2004. If you go back and look at your historical timeline, that was when the Marines made the decision to go back into Fallujah. And the Marines were like, talking to their colonel, their intel colonels, like, Carl, this is an awesome idea, but there's no political will to do it right now. You got the elections going on in the States. Once Bush gets reelected, then we're immediately the next day, we're going to push into Fallujah. We don't want to stir up a hornet's nest ahead of time, push the timetable. We're going to have to say no. We're going to have to say no. So, we built this awesome car bomb. The other A-team coming in to replace mine, they roll in while my snipers are inside the city, the second battle of Fallujah. I've got that new A-team coming in to replace us. They've got to sign for all the vehicles, sign for the buildings, sign for the radios, sign for the ammo, sign for the trucks. And oh, by the way, line 156, sign for your car bomb. So anyways, we didn't actually get a chance to use our car bomb because the second battle of Fallujah kicked off. And that is another story that I'm going to save for story time here on Patreon. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this month's war story. Psychological warfare. Make them kill themselves, why not, right? So think outside the box, little small white lies here and there, and we're making the world a better place. Anyways, I hope you enjoy this month's story. Again, I appreciate everybody here on Patreon for your continued support of Tactical Rifleman, and y'all take care. Shoot straight.